Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 87 of the James Layton Fitness Podcast. Now, in today's episode, we'll be discussing something called volume, and volume is essentially one of the biggest determining factors for influencing muscle growth. We're going to discuss in detail what it is and how you can manipulate this to increase volume over time and to therefore build more muscle mass. So firstly, what is volume? So volume is basically sets times reps times loads. So it's basically the total amount of work you're doing in a particular session, the total amount of work you're doing for each individual muscle group. And as I mentioned, it is the biggest determining factor for influencing muscle growth. As such, if you're in a muscle building phase, this really is your number one priority. You really want to be focusing on increasing this over a chronic period of time, coupled with sufficient protein and an energy surplus, and you will build muscle mass. However, there's a couple of nuances here. It's really critical to realize that as you become more advanced, it can be much more difficult to increase volume over time. So when you first start training, when you first start lifting weights, you get stronger very easily, and as such, volume basically goes up by default, because when we discuss volume, it's easy to think about increasing more sets, increasing more exercises, which you certainly can do, but it's really important just to note that if you're getting stronger within the rep ranges you're already doing, then volume will be going up by default. So for example, if you were squatting 110 kilograms for 3 sets of 5, however, 6 to 8 weeks ago you were doing 100 kilograms for 3 sets of 5. Volume has just gone up by default, so it's really critical to realize that you don't want to overcomplicate this. It can just be as simple as getting stronger within the rep ranges you're doing. But in addition to that, as I mentioned, it does become more difficult to increase volume over time as you become more advanced. Therefore, it's really critical to think about increasing volume over a chronic period of time rather than getting obsessed over the session to session and weekly changes. Focus on a chronic progression over a longer period of time. Additionally, it's important to note that the increase in volume over time, it's not like it's a perfectly straight curve. As I mentioned, as you get more advanced, it's more about increasing volume over a larger period of time, and this is more like a wiggly upward curve. Especially if you are fluctuating your rep ranges, especially if you're big key lifts, you'll notice that acutely your session to session volume may change or even drop slightly. However, this really doesn't matter because it's more about that chronic progression. So just keep that in mind. If you're getting too obsessed with the session to session or weekly volume changes, try to look at the bigger picture. Try and take a step back and think, is the volume I'm doing now greater than it was 6 months ago? That's a much better way of looking at it, especially as you get more advanced. It's not to say that you shouldn't be striving for the volume changes over a much smaller time scale. It's just critical to realize that it's more about the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is increasing volume over a longer period of time. So here's a few ways you can increase volume. The first one is probably the simplest way, and as I briefly mentioned, it's about getting stronger within the rep ranges you're already doing, and therefore volume will be going up by default. Because remember, sets times reps times load is the volume equation. So if you're increasing load but the sets and reps are staying the same, then volume is going up. Another way to increase volume is to increase the number of sets. Another way to increase volume is to increase the number of exercises, and as a result, that will also increase the number of sets as well. Additionally, it's also important to note that it's not just about doing as much volume as possible. It's about doing enough volume to progress on, but not too much volume that you can't sufficiently recover from. So it's not just about doubling your volume within the week just because you think more volume is better. It's because otherwise you won't be able to sufficiently recover, and as a result you won't be able to make that chronic progression. So it's more about doing enough volume to make progress, but not too much volume that you can't sufficiently recover from. Additionally, it's also important to note that the load needs to be heavy enough, i.e. it's not just about doing very low weight, lots of repetitions, lots of sets, and therefore accumulate more volume. The load needs to be heavy enough for you to maximize muscle growth. Additionally, it's important to note as you become more advanced, as you start to notice some weaker body parts appearing within your physique, this is a great opportunity to add more volume to these weaker body parts to try and develop these more in comparison to your stronger body parts, and as a result have more of a balanced physique. So especially if you're beyond that 2 years of weight training experience, you'll probably notice that certain body parts are more developed than others, and this is the time to really step in and increase the volume, so the sets, the exercises, how frequently you're training this body part to, as a result, to increase volume on this particular body part, and as a result, try and better develop these particular muscle groups. So hopefully that makes sense. Try not to overcomplicate this. Like as mentioned, it could just be as simple as getting stronger within the rep ranges you're already doing. It's certainly worth paying attention to the amount of volume you're doing, and also really just focusing on increasing this over a longer period of time. Looking back at your last 6 months weight training experience and thinking, am I doing more volume now than I was then? Couple that with sufficient protein and energy surplus, you're going to build more muscle mass. So hopefully you've really found this useful. Hopefully you can start applying this within your own training, and I'll look forward to speaking to you next week. If you're still yet to download my free ebook, How to Set Up a Nutrition Plan, if you go to James Layton, Layton fitness.co.uk, you can download that free ebook immediately. Thank you very much, guys. I'll look forward to speaking to you next week. Take care.